Uhuru. I want to thank everyone that's present for coming out. My name is Makeda Baraka. And this press conference was called to get the message out to the world that the devastation suffered when the EF3 tornado hit St. Louis is concentrated in the Black community. It is being used to escalate the land grab and drive out our Black families, and we're fighting back with our own plan. They talk about $1 billion worth of damage being done by the tornado. What they don't say is that the damage was concentrated in the African community in North St. Louis. The city has the resources to repair the damage, and we want it now. Before I introduce our speakers, I would like to say the names of the people who lost their lives after the city failed to initiate the alarm system so that we could take shelter. You can see their pictures on the wall here. There is Rena Scott Lyles, 60 years old, was running toward the basement with her husband, Alan, when their Fountain Park home collapsed. Dolores Holmes, 70 years old, a mother of 5 and a great-grandmother to 8, died when her home in the Ville neighborhood collapsed. Patricia Pendleton, 74 years old. Wait a minute. Yeah, Patricia Pendleton. Okay. 74 years old, a volunteer at Centennial Christian Church in Fountain Park, was trapped when the bell tower collapsed. Juan Baltazar, 48, the beloved owner of a Mexican street corn food truck, was killed by a tree that fell in Carondelet Park. Catherine Brown, 83 years old, was in hospice care when the family home collapsed. Jerome Robinson, 68 years old, died of a heart attack when the tornado hit. And Larry Patrick, 82 years old. All of these people died as a result of not having ample warning to be able to take cover properly. And we just want to remember them. So our first speaker is Chairman Omali Yeshitella. Chairman Omali is the founder and leader of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. He is the political theorist and strategist who developed the theory of African internationalism. A former field organizer with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, he has traveled to over 19 countries, building the Black Power struggle throughout Africa, Europe, and the Americas, and establishing solidarity relations with other colonized peoples' movements. He has driven the establishment of over 50 Black community economic institutions designed to free African people from the colonial mode of production and welfare slavery. I bring to you Chairman Omali Yeshitella.
Uhuru. Thank you, Makeda. Somebody needs to go to jail. The mayor and the St. Louis city government have to be held accountable. After the EF3 level tornado with wind speeds of up to 165 miles an hour, swept through the African community of North St. Louis last week, causing at least 7 deaths and wreaking massive destruction to more than 5,000 homes. The government of the city of St. Louis and the mayor have done nothing for the people. If it were not for the resilience, collective spirit, and problem solving of the people, more death and destruction would have hit our already beleaguered community by the city's criminal negligence. There was nothing natural about this disaster. how many people died as a direct result of the failure of the city to push the button that activates sirens that every St. Louis resident recognizes as the code to immediately take cover from a storm. Instead, people were still in their cars, outside, on their porches, in their houses, sometimes in their churches, or just realizing they were urgently needed to run for cover when they caught sight of the tornado's funnel clouds that were a mile wide and 23 miles long. The programs of the Black Power movement that the whole movement in general responsible for on the West Florissant corridor took a direct hit by the tornado, including a basketball court, community gardens, buildings targeted for a radio station, and an African independence workforce program, as well as my home that I share with my wife and APEDF president, owner Yeshitella, where our roof was destroyed. Undaunted, the Uhuru movement has sponsored ongoing giveaways to the community with the Uhuru House at 4101 West Florissant serving as a major hub for food, water, diapers, and other necessities of life. Many of the donations have come from supporters, allies, and friends from South St. Louis as well, and from neighboring Illinois. As of Saturday, my home and many others on the north side have been slapped with the red sticker condemning functional homes where families are living and opening them up to notorious developers, such as Paul McKee, who are circling like vultures to grab our community's hard-won properties and use them for gentrification to further push out the African community, which has already lost thousands of people in the past few years. I think there's something like 10,000 African people in the last few years who've been pushed out of St. Louis. The fact that the city failed to activate its sirens in the city's first actual touchdown by a tornado in 100 years is inexcusable. The city and Mayor Kara Spencer must be held responsible for this crime. Must be held responsible for this crime. You know, all the liberals in the city love to hold up and signs saying Black Lives Matter. We got an indication from this government how much they think Black Lives Matter. Just push the button. And they couldn't do that. But then, you know, we're talking about a city that can't pick up the garbage in our communities, and we are supposed to rely on them to be able to rectify the situation that came as a consequence of the tornado. 70% of the African working class community have no insurance in a city that is holding on to millions of dollars from the settlement of the move of the Rams sports team and nearly $500 million in federal opera relief money, none of which has been distributed to the people. We are reminded by the city's activities of what happened in New Orleans in 2005 with Katrina. The response is so similar. With Katrina, where they brought in the military to our community. They told the people to get out, to evacuate without doing anything to facilitate the ability of the people to evacuate. Talking about an African community. Get out. And of course, the people didn't have a capacity to do that. So people drowned. And then they had the military come in. They rounded up people and put us in a stadium there in New Orleans. And right now they used it as a means of gentrifying New Orleans. So this historically famous cultural icon for Black people here and around the world is no longer as Black as it used to be. People who left New Orleans to come to temporary safety, they have never been able to go back, and that was 20 years ago. So we're disgusted with crying Mayor Carol Spencer, and it's an insidious attempt to make herself the object of pity, instead of addressing the needs of thousands of Black people who are suffering devastation as a result of intentional disregard and contempt by the city. And I say more than that, it's a campaign ploy. The thing that we saw her do in this press conference where she's crying, and we saw many of her minions, Black people, who were hugging her and embracing her, as if the problem is, as if she had suffered the devastation that this community has suffered. And so instead of being concerned about the people and the condition of ourselves, we're supposed to cry for Carol Spencer, who couldn't push the button. So we have a situation where Spencer is treating our community as a criminal community, similar to what happened in New Orleans when they brought in the National Guards. The National Guards have been brought to St. Louis. She has even hired, and this is extraordinary, this man, Ben Johnson, who is a U.S. military colonel, who is a counterinsurgency expert. And she has hired him. He was deployed in Gaza, where the U.S. has been murdering the Palestinian people and taking their lands and making sure that they cannot come back to their homes. Check it out, Gaza. This guy was in Gaza. He was a military force in Gaza. And he has been hired as a chief operation officer for Carol Spencer, the mayor. And it's no coincidence that they announced his hiring on the anniversary of Nakba, which is the moment in 1948 when the Israelis pushed the Palestinian people out of their homes. They've claimed their homes. They put up walls and what have you. So the Palestinian people cannot even come back to their homes. There are thousands of Palestinians, some in your community right now, in part as the consequence of what happened with Nakba. And the guy who was one of the people presiding over that has been brought as her chief operation officer. That is to say, the mayor's chief operation officer. And what we're looking at in Gaza is colonialism. And I think we should be clear on that, because people can trap us with this notion of fighting against racism. What the hell is racism? Racism means that somebody doesn't like you, or how do you solve that problem, racism? You can't even hit somebody who is oppressing you if your objective is to make them like you, because they ain't gonna like you if you hit them. You can't even kick a predator out of your community if your objective is to make them like you. Are we supposed to make Paul McKee like us? That's what racism is all about. We are struggling against colonialism, and colonialism is concrete. So it's when the oppression of a whole people by an entire population by foreign and alien state power for the benefit of others. So our goal is not to return St. Louis to its status before the tornado. That's not good enough because even before the tornado, if you look at the conditions of our community, if you look at the Team 4 plan that was designed to push African people out of this community, impoverish this community, it's not good enough to talk about bringing it back the way it used to be. According to statistics of the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank, white families in St. Louis have $992,000 more in wealth than the African families in a city notorious for the Delmar Avenue divide, where one crosses a single street from white prosperity to the poverty and colonial decimation of the African community. The Uhuru movement demands that the city of St. Louis, among other things, our demands is the city of St. Louis adopt the plan put forward by former Alderman Jesse Todd, a plan which Mayor Spencer voted for and certainly didn't oppose when she was on the board of alderpersons. This plan calls for, and this was Jesse Todd developed this plan more than 40 years ago. And this plan, he will talk about some of this stuff, maybe today, certainly at the meeting that we're calling for Sunday at 3 o'clock, where we're asking the entire community to come out so that we can say how we are going to collectively approach this question, not just of the tornado, but the way the government here has responded to the tornado and to the existence of Black people in this city. This Jesse Todd put forth this plan in opposition to the city's Team 4 plan, which was created. It was called a Let It Rot campaign, benign neglect they call it, with the objective of destroying, making sure resources didn't come to this community so that it would dry up. And they did that. And the evidence of that can be talked about at some time later. But whole hospitals, schools, whole communities that were thriving do not exist anymore as a consequence of that. But Jesse Todd put forth a plan to respond to that. It was opposed to gentrification, whatever. And his plan, like I said, this is a plan that was initiated before the tornado. It was responding to conditions in our community before the tornado. And this plan calls for jobs for all who want a job and a guaranteed annual income for the disabled, elderly. It calls for a drug treatment on demand. And that's really important. You know that's important, don't you? Yes. Because they pump drugs into our community. People can't work, can't get a job. Not in the legal capitalist system, so they put an illegal capitalist process in our community. So the only way you can get money is working for the dope man. The dope man is the biggest employer sometimes in our community. It calls for drug treatment on demand. His plan calls for vacant houses that are boarded must have all windows and doors boarded up on every floor at the owners or the land reutilization authority's expense. And a part of the reason for that is if you don't board those windows up, et cetera, and don't close those doors, then the elements are able to attack the properties as part of the degradation of the homes, the houses, and infrastructure that exist in the city, partially responsible for what it is that the damage that this tornado was able to do. It's not just an act of some kind of act of nature that we're talking about. We're talking about policies that's come from the government here. We say that the money used to tear down houses will be given to families to fix up vacant houses. Code enforcement must be the same for vacant houses as it is for occupied homes. If the LRA property is not sold within a year, it will be sold to an individual for $1. And the individual will be given grants to fix up the property. There was a hustler politician who was in office in this city who said that people can get a home for $1. Y'all remember who I'm talking about? But what he didn't say is where the money was going to come from to fix the houses. And if you've given a house for $1 and it's going to cost you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to fix the house, then there's nothing you can do except pat yourself on the back for coming up with a good idea to give the poor people a house for $1. No, we're talking about more than that. Talking about tax credits or grants will be given to families, not big developers to fix up vacant houses. And that's what they've done. They've given tax credits, which is your money, our money, to these hustlers that they call developers, these predators of our community that they call developers. Seniors, disabled, and low-income homeowners will be given grants to make needed home repairs. This is one of the ways they take our property, especially with what they call code violation. You got these old people, especially African widows, who don't have the capacity and the resources of living on fixed income, and then they're violated and they can't fix up their homes and stuff, and that ends up being a property of the city through LRA. So we're opposed to that. This program is opposed to that. And then grass on lots, alleys, and vacant buildings will be cut and trimmed as needed. Trash will be cleaned off the property at the owner's expenses, and parks will have supervised will have supervision, equipment, and supplies. So that's part of, in brief, like what Jesse Todd. Jesse will be here. The alderperson, we call him the people's alderman, even though he, only wanted to be alderperson for a year. He's got other kinds of responsibilities too at home. But this is what Jesse Todd advanced 40 years ago. That's why we say you can't call this an act of nature that's responsible for what we're looking at now. 40 years ago, if people had followed the advice that Jesse Todd had put forth as an organizer in this city, then we wouldn't be suffering the kinds of contradictions that we are now. So we also demand the establishment of a community-based reparations land trust, where land becomes community wealth. The land becomes the community wealth, a trust that's community-based, that's owned, that's controlled by the community, where the land becomes a community wealth as opposed to wealth from McKee and all the other predators who are out there looting our communities. And then, what the government has done is talk about the National Guard, put a 9 p.m. curfew with the assumption that somehow the curfew is necessary to keep the mass of Black people from stealing everything. There ain't nothing left. Paul McKee and the so-called developers have stolen damn near everything there is here. And this is what we are fighting against. So we are talking about the city must employ local Black contractors. Local Black contractors to bring in some of the kinds of work to bring the community standards up and to repair some of the damage that's been done. Hire local Black contractors to do this. And this contributes to money circulating in a starving community. So you're concerned about young Black people selling drugs. You don't have to bring in the National Guards like one alderperson suggested be done in this city. Bring in some jobs, bring in some resources, bring in some money so that people can have a way to live within a legal economy. So we want local Black contractors hired. We want to pay the residents with trucks who have already been picking up debris and pay them to pick up more debris. Let the community do that. Let the community earn the kinds of resources to make this happen. What was it said that the community must not self-deploy? Mm-hmm. The community, this is what the mayor said. The community must not self-deploy. If the community hadn't self-deployed, the debris would be up to over our heads right now. Community came out and did this. The city did nothing. And so for Spencer to be applauding herself for the great job she's done, and for the sycophants that surround her, all of whom are running for office, they're campaigning, they're using this to campaign, just like people played on our community after Ferguson. people who, after Ferguson, made reputations for themselves for doing nothing, but they had faces that were put forward, and they were able to get into office, and some of them are in jail now, or went to jail as a consequence of being predators too. So that's not what we're looking for this time around. So, but somebody needs to go to jail. And so we invite everybody here and everybody who is accessing this discussion, this press conference today, to attend a special community tornado response meeting here at the Uhuru House on Sunday, June 1st at 3 p.m. So this is our call. These are the demands that we are forwarding right now. And it's really important to do this because there's a tendency too often in our communities to just get the first thing that somebody offers as a suggested solution. Sometimes because it helps us as individuals or our particular organization or something like that. Sometimes because we are too cowardly, too spineless to stand up against this power that has been exploiting our communities all this time. But we have to be able to say that our children must have a future. And the children cannot have a future if we allow this to happen over and over and over and over again, and that we do not hold something accountable. That's the struggle against colonialism that we're involved in. We're not talking about going back to the way it was. We're talking about advancing to the way it ought to be. And the people's participation is what will make it what it needs to be. So we're saying the people will self-deploy. We're calling on the people to self-deploy. We're calling on people to come to the Uhuru House on Sunday at 3 o'clock so that we can have an opportunity to collaborate and to collectivize this response to this tornado and in response to the tornado that's been going on here in St. Louis for 100 years or so. We have to respond to this tornado that we call colonialism. There's a thing up here by Marcus Garvey. Look for me in the whirlwind or the storm. Look for me in the whirlwind. And the whirlwind is something that has unleashed the power of the people in St. Louis. We just have to organize it and give it direction. Uhuru.
Thank you for that, Chairman. Our next speaker is going to be Jesse Todd, former St. Louis alderman. Mr. Todd has fought for the rights of our community for decades. He served on the Central Committee of the Democratic Party for 20 years. He authored the Todd Plan and introduced the Sanctuary City Resolution. Mr. Todd, you have 3 minutes on the mic.
Uhuru, comrades. First of all, I won't repeat what the chairman said about the Todd Plan. He did a great job. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I thank you all for listening. I will just highlight a few things the chairman did say with that there's not a block unit in the area where I represented since I've been in the struggle since I was 17 years old. And the Todd Plan started in the early 70s after when they openly put out a city hall said that one side of the city would get taken care of and others in the Black community would be neglected and let it rot at the vine. I'm just paraphrasing when I use words and stuff. But we went down and put pressure on them. They withdrew. When I say they, the mayor and the other people who came up with the how to drive us out of the city plan. They pulled it off the table, but it has continued. It has continued under both Black leadership and white leadership. So this is not like it's just this like the chairman said again, not about talking about somebody's racist, you know, but then if you just look at the races, even if we want to use that, it's like the con man. One hit your pickpocket, one hit your pocket and get your attention, the other will snatch your money. The white will hit your pocket and the black will go in your back pocket. So this is about what has happened is our neighborhood has been going down. And I came up with, as the chairman said, came up with the Todd Plan because the Team 4 plan, because of the Team 4 plan. And a lot of us went down there and I picketed and for months and months, and so they finally withdrew it. And everybody, but that's how I came with the Todd Plan. with my background of being head of the block unit, neighborhood association, neighborhood community organizer, neighborhood developer, as well as being elected to the Democratic City Central Committee. The Democratic City Central Committee, I know it's not our solution either, but it was at one time more powerful than being an alderperson. And so it's not like, and it is still, I mean, it gives you a platform to speak from. That's why people ask me why I run and sit on the Central Committee. I ran and sat there because I was asked. They told me, like I'm telling you, it gave me a platform. Nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody make you sell out. The folks who say y'all sell out because they want to sell out. So no, they scared. They're not scared. So people say, well, they're scared of it. No, I know. They just want the money. Yeah. They were corrupt when they got there, and a lot of them have gone to jail since I've been. I'm telling you, this city probably has per capita more people going to jail than any other city in America. But the point is that so I did sit on the Todd plan passed through the Democratic City Central Committee. I was the treasurer for about 10 years. So I was an officer, so I really know the politics of the city. But they did pass it. There was a resolution, so all of them know. We have what's called the Board of Aldermen passed the Todd plan and Carol Spencer and the other alder people who are there now. Most of them, I don't have the record in front of me, but most of them voted for it, and all of them. Nobody opposed it. Let me say that. And every part that your chairman read was passed by this Democratic Central Committee and the board. So the main point is, what we need to do, as the chairman said, is to make them spend the money and put the people first. That's what we got to do, because it's our money. At the end of the day, it's our tax dollar. And that's what we got to make them do. Fix up our community. And he mentioned reparations. They owe us reparations for neglecting us all this time, just with the tax dollars that currently. And all for the past. Uhuru. Put the people first.
That's right. Next we'll have Jason Westbrook, President of the St. Louis branch of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, branch president.
Uhuru. I'm Westbrook, the president, right here in St. Louis. I'm the president of EPITA, right here in St. Louis, where our party headquarters is now located. It breaks my heart to be before you today under these unfortunate circumstances. First, I want to extend my condolence to the people who suffered from the lack of leadership from Carl Spencer in the local government. This devastation, they hit our community hard, and it has been described as one of the worst disasters in St. Louis history. More than $1 billion in damages in our area, the African community. And if you look around, it's noticeable. But for those of us who grew up in St. Louis, this seemed to be more of the norm. So let me tell you about some of these norms, starting with bathing. I can remember in the early 80s, that bathing was a German time. My family was the third Africans on the block, and soon after that, I witnessed the white flight and the disinvestment of bathing. I was fortunate to go to bathing school before the extension. I remember when the city wasted taxpayers' money by adding the extension to the schools just to close it a few short years later because it was contaminated with lead. Now look at the school, dilapidated, falling apart, close to disrepair. I can remember staying in Springdale, close to Kenlock, as a child at 4404 Rolling Drive. I was there during the buyout. I witnessed the house my mother was married in. The house me and my twin walked my mother down the outlet, was bought from underneath her and tore down. and just to be an empty lot for many decades under the illusion of expanding the airport runway. I stayed in Walnut Park first at Sherry, where I was poisoned with lead because the city hall refused to enforce their codes. The same code that said lead paint is illegal and the landlord must remove all the lead off the premises. But they refused to enforce their code. I was diagnosed with a few things because of high concentration of lead in that house. And if anyone know about high levels of lead, it stays in your blood forever. Or how about the time I stayed at 5959 Theodore and I was sandwiched in between two vacant properties that was owned by the city. LA, that was falling apart right next to us. The city was called many times because of the drug activities and the crimes that was happening in those vacant properties, but they refused to do anything about it. These are the conditions that we are faced. These are the conditions that we are faced to raise our children in. Are you seeing a pattern? And not only did I stay in the JBL, but I worked there. I worked for McKee's Contracting under Raymond McKee's from 2013 to 2019. When I stayed in the JBL, it seemed like I was in a war zone or a third world country. I stayed on Howard in between Glasgow and Madison. I had front row seats to all the derelict and dilapidated buildings from Cass to Jefferson, Cool, Papa Bell, Sheridan, Evans, etc. I had front row seats to the NGA uprooting the whole community, our community. I used to cut some of those same very lots that the NGA now sits on. I used to ride the tractors and cut apartment key lots, sometimes months without pay because he refused to pay us. Imagine this for a second. Every last one of apartment key properties is falling apart. It got so bad at one point that all the blades on that tractor was breaking because of the bricks and debris that was hiding under the weeds and tall grass. This slumlord went all his properties down to the ground. Look, do you see a pattern? Do you see this? From the last public bathhouse to the old Gray House Center, all of these things is crumbling down to the ground. What about the 19th century historic YMCA landmark that Farmer Key burned down to the ground? Y'all know the one off Cass across the street from the OPs. But can I tell you something? The house is on Sherry. It's still, the house on Sherry that's contaminated with lead paint. It's still there. Perhaps poisoning other families. What about the LA? What about the house that was on? I'm sorry, and I'm supposed to leave it alone. I'm saying this to end it. What about the LA houses that was next door to me at 5959 Theodore? Do you know the house is still there, barely standing? They have yet to give themselves 10 days to not their dilapidated property. Why not take Matisse? Right. Why we allowed to have burnt out structures lined up and down Glasgow with families and homes across the street from them? These eyesores. But once again, your government is picking on you and I. Once again, City Hall is, instead of City Hall standing up for the people, they taking this middle stance against us. They choose to red tag our Trimmer house. They choose to condemn your neighbor house. They give us 10 days to move out. That sounds like a force out. Family, friends, and comrades, change has to come. Not 4 years from now, but right now. Yeah. We are in a delicate and sensitive times, and right now we need real leadership. It is not Spencer. By the way, Spencer, can you stop billing me for the damage that you / the tornado has caused? Uhuru.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Westbrook. Next, we will have Christopher Gladney, President of the Northside Independent Neighborhood Association.
All right, hello, everybody. Again, I am the president of the Northside Independent Neighborhood Association. And I first want to give my support to everyone who's been affected by the tornado that struck this city on May 16th of 2025, especially to the families and friends of those who died as a consequence. While on the road, I witnessed the devastation to the Black community in the aftermath, and I was in utter disbelief from what I saw and experienced. And as I was caught up in the blocks upon blocks of major traffic disruptions, I saw buildings on Newstead that were completely flattened, trees falling in the middle of major thoroughfares and side streets, and multiple power lines and transformers were down. I saw the faces of some who lost everything, especially the face of a young African woman who was sitting in a chair on the site of what was a building at 3013 North Newstead Avenue, completely obliterated. On the following Monday night, I was awakened to my apartment flooding from a huge rain that fell on the city. I too was affected by the F3 tornado that ripped away much of the roof. I, as a consequence, have been displaced along with countless others. In the face of the disaster, however, Nenah continued to do work to help clean up in the community, worked with the Uhuru Bakery and Cafe to fix free hot food for the community, and gave out much needed supplies. And I want to thank the Vice President Nenah also for her efforts to feed and support the Black community. Now, I want to read the second point of the purpose of Nenah, which is to promote and protect the welfare, health, and safety of the members of the neighborhood through collective action, communication, and collaboration. That said, we want to make some critical demands of the city. 1, stop the land grabs by the NGA.
Right, yeah.
2, reverse the verdict of Team 4. 3, reparations to the Black community. 4, stop the red tagging of people's homes. 5, release the RAMS money and the interest, the ARPA funds, and the city surplus so the Black community can rebuild. And 6, jail Kara Spencer and Sarah Russell for the cyber fiasco that resulted in the deaths of 7 people. Now, Nenah will be present at a special Black community rally on Sunday, June 1st, here at the Uhuru House at 4101 West Florissant Avenue at 3 p.m. So this community can continue to strategize on rebuilding our homes, our businesses, and further build our own economy. Because we see the city government does not have our best interests at heart, so we must organize to do things for ourselves. And I want to also hear from all the neighborhoods on the north side. Are you receiving help, and from whom? What are the results of that help? How many people in your areas are displaced, without food, without water? Nenah wants to know so that we can get to work to meet the needs of the people. No one on the north side should fall through the cracks. And to contact Nenah, go to info@nenahstl.org, nenahstl.org, the website, or you can call us at 314-246-0311.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Siali, for that information. Next up will be Karen Greer, business owner of Angels Within and vice president of the North Side Independent Neighborhood Association, or NENA. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and Uhuru to all the members. I want to thank you all for this opportunity to speak as a representative of a business owner on the North Side. I am a direct descendant of the benign neglect. I was born and raised right around the corner on West Florissant, on Adelaide, right off of West Florissant. We stayed in a beautiful architectural 2-family building that no longer is there now. That is the same thing if we going back through the same cycle of the neglect. Just as my brother was talking about the lead in our schools, they didn't remediate those. They didn't give reparations to those kids that are still affected by that lead. So again, we keep going through a systematic way of how the city and the elected officials impose hardships on us. This tornado, I experienced storefront, the whole facade falling off, windows blown out, but the structure was still there. 3 of my properties that I own in the city, they were hard fought to get, and they're still standing. But as I left this immediate area and I drove down Natural Bridge,
Right,
and I drove down these small streets,
right.
I wasn't impacted at all. I just got a scratch. But my heart was hurt. I cried. I literally cried going down these streets. These are people's families. These are people's parents. Properties that they wanted to leave to their children. Gone. It took me a year and a half to get insurance on a commercial building that I had been working on for this very community, paying taxes on it, making sure that I'm keeping up the maintenance on it. Only to see that when we apply for grants or funding to rebuild or to restore or to revitalize our communities, we get nothing. We get the doors closed in. We get smoke and mirrors, but we don't get the change that is desperately needed in this community. We need all of that grants money, not some of it. We need all of it. The impact of North St. Louis is historical. No other parts of St. Louis look like North St. Louis.
That's right.
Many parts of St. Louis have been affected for decades, for centuries, like North St.
That's
Louis.
right.
We're talking about our North St. Louis, Hyde Park, O'Fallon, Penrose, Walnut Park. If I forget your name, please forgive me because you are a part of our family.
Yeah.
So Nenah was formed as a result of a lot of the neglect, a lot of broken communities. We're not working together because we're being pulled in different areas. But Nenah was formed so that we can come together and build together, to fight together. And this is one of the biggest fights that is desperately needed to bring people like us, people that are for us, people that support us, right? I can go on and on. There's so many things that I want to say. I didn't write a script. But at the end of the day, when you look at this picture, respond in the way that your feet are in our shoes, not on the south side,
Well,
but that you live on the north side.
right.
Make sure you walking in these same shoes, and we want the response that if you were living in a house where the whole front part of your house is gone, or the whole side of it gone, or completely level, act accordingly to whereas if that was your house, your mama's house, or your mom passed away,
Yeah.
your daughter passed away. These are families that have been drastically impacted and have paid the price. They'll never get the reparations for what they deserve. Our kids deserve more. They're taking our schools. They're taking we don't have urgent cares. We may have a few, but not enough to help the whole north side. So the benign neglect did exactly what it was intended to do,
Yeah.
even though the bill did not pass.
Yeah.
It's still being implemented today. And we don't have enough people fighting and screaming and holding them accountable. But we're asking for you to come and talk to Nenah and share your story. Join the organization or join some organization that's going to fight for the reparations of North St. Louis. My name is Karen Greer. I'm going to stand strong. I'm not leaving.
Right on.
I'm not leaving. You're not going to buy me out. And at the end of the day, we also want to make sure that they bring us back our equity.
Yeah.
Well, we've been reassessed, right?
Yeah.
This is a reassess year. Your property values probably went up if you did some improvements, which I did. But now that this devastation has happened, our assets have now plummeted right back down to zero.
Yeah.
Suburban community with this much devastation without the help of our city, without the help of our state and our government. We are asking for you all to step in real quick and swiftly and restore us back to where we were, not to where we were, but a better North St. Louis.
Yeah.
Help us thrive just like the rest of the city of St. Louis.
Right.
Thank you for that, Ms. Greer. We now want to hear from a couple of our local Black contractors. We have Mr. Dependable, Ben Petty, you can step up. And followed by him, Patrick Jefferson of BJ Boys Maintenance LLC.
Mr. Dependable is not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, come on up.
Excuse me, you hear everybody? All right. Well, man, I don't know where to start at because I haven't stopped. Well, man, first, man, I like to send a real, I know all of our hearts hurt for everybody that's been affected. And for me, it's like it was an undesired like welcome to other people to my world because I experienced what a lot of other people experiencing now as far as a couple of years ago with my roof coming out and water coming in, dropping all the ceilings and things. But I don't know, I'm kind of wired kind of different. I'm not wired to look for help from the government or nothing like that. It's just a reaction towards that, after being having a door slammed on you for so much, you just do what you can do. You pray and you kind of lean on them people that can help you. And you kind of, once people and organizations show you what it is, I kind of accept it for that and move forward to try to gravitate with the people and organizations that I know that kind of move forward. And when this happened, I was actually active out on Natural Bridge and Union. And had I made a right turn leaving off of that lot and went to Highway 70, I would have been out the tornado. And I made a left turn thinking that, okay, this ain't that bad. I get these alerts all the time. I don't hear no sirens going off. If it was really bad, you would hear the sirens and this and that. And made a left and went right into the middle of this storm. And, I've seen it on other people's face, like the surprise and things and the shock, but it was kind of, for some reason, kind of like a natural, just felt kind of natural. Although I'd never been in a tornado, it felt kind of natural, but I seen that I was in shock and didn't know it. Although it felt natural, I was in a shock because I look up and here it is, I'm stuck with hundreds of people not moving. Thank God I ride with my chainsaws and things of that nature. And people actually got to work minutes after when the tornado hit. Nothing planned, nothing desired, just a reaction to survival. But after that, seeing that, a lot of people said dormant, seeing that we didn't have resources of the city coming in, responding in the way that we like, we continue to help each other and build on each other. But for us to see that and then react different, saying that, we still patronizing, sending our money outside the community and things that, people that didn't respond to help us, it's like we got control of a lot of things that we're giving other people control of. We can build these communities of, I can do what I do as one person in one block to help keep this whole block maintenance. And I'm one person using my own resources with whatever little dollar I make. And what you hear, look, this West Florissant was towed down, and towed down. This was before the tornado hit. And, we see the progress that's being made. So if we keep putting time, energy, and resources into what we see that's working instead of, hoping, this mayor get in, gonna do something, and this person get in, gonna do something. Let's support the people that we see right now that's doing stuff, that's active, and put into that we see a system that works. The system of what we seeing that's going on right here within West Florissant, what we're doing, this can apply to the whole city. We mobilize and get out, and do that. And I'm pretty sure that's going to continue to happen, as we work together and move forward. But oh my God, I don't, it's something different. I'm grateful to have, the Uhuru movement and brothers that to keep focus on things that we can do. Sometimes, I don't get a chance to watch any TV news and get up, and I'm running blind into things. So when I do get enlightened on certain things, it's like, okay, well, it's more, I do have help. Because sometimes you think you're all alone out here doing certain things, and having a general knowledge of certain things, we getting a false sense of stabilizing these homes. Some people just don't know. But for us to keep rain out of our houses, people that know, they giving these companies coming out trying to stabilize these houses. Some people have the money. So they don't have to put a blue torp up. We know that these blue torps are going to deteriorate real fast. They're not really designed for long-term use, just partial use. So we try to talk to people, and when you get a platform that you could tell them, you tell them, hey, get the two-sided torp and use the one for maximum protection, and you won't be out of just as much as money. You're just getting something that's specified for that use, but man, I'm not a very good speaker, but it kind of hurts me in my heart that some people can sit idle at this time, that have it. Some people don't have it, but you have some that sit idle, and I just really want to see us jamming. I don't want to see us so much waiting on this, because it's going to show from the work that we do, and for those that's not putting into the people that do things, then that's going to kind of set them back. Because if you're not pouring into what's helping you're hurting yourself. You got to help the people that's helping you to kind of get along. We all need help, and getting out here as the work. I heard the brother mention that he was cutting, you cutting and how your stuff turn your morals up. Well, it's real hard for us because we're going across nails, rooftops. When you drag the trees off, that's the least damage, for us. That's the way we see just right on the surface. When you drag that out, it's much more, and the people that can't get out the areas. We do things like on the outskirts and things of that nature. It's a lot of people that were suffering before the tornado. They're not getting that door-to-door service. So when somebody do knock on your door and you knew that you didn't have a ride out, or you was kind of antisocial before this, and you say, man, I don't have nobody that can call, those people feel it when you knock on their doors and show up with a meal or something of that nature, or to help out. But I'm Patrick Jefferson. I'm with BJ Boys. If there's anything that we could do or within our resources, we could do to help, and for those that they can't, you can pray. Is always something that we can do. If we can't physically do it, if we can help direct someone to the resources or something of that nature. But man, I love this. When I got, with Uhuru and start working with people that have a genuine interest in helping people, even when you're going through rough things, it kind of help you out. I can deal with my lights off. I can light a candle, that wasn't, nothing of that nature. But some people get kind of flipped out, and we got to beat her. Some people depends on the electric to keep their certain machines, medical machines and things of that working, so for us to go by filming, that's not too good. You filming things and you going by, and you're not walking up generally asking people what you need, or how is it that I could help if you have the resources. So let's just continue to, be who we are and move on how our hearts move us. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for that, Patrick. Next, we're going to hear from Penny Hess from the African People's Solidarity Committee Chairwoman, Penny Hess.
Uhuru, everybody. I just want to say, first of all, it's a profound honor to be able to be here today. I want to salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitella, Deputy Chair Onizene Yeshitella, and to say that I am the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, with the mandate to go into the white community to organize other white people to stand in solidarity with this struggle that we see right here, the ongoing struggle of the African revolution, of the African working class to have political and economic power over their lives. And we fight for reparations to African people. That is our mandate. And I just can't say enough what an honor it has been to work under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitella and Deputy Chair Onizene Yeshitella, who have always fought. The African People's Solidarity Committee, by the way, was formed in 1976, almost 50 years. we have been out there doing this under the leadership of the chairman. He has never stopped fighting, no matter what, a tornado, no matter what. And that the chairman has taught me and us that it is in our interest as white people that African people have power, have the continent of Africa, have their resources, and have reparations as the stolen wealth that is owed to them. And that because APSC, the Solidarity Committee, organizes in the white community, we put out the demands, and I salute the demands that the party and Alderman Jesse Todd, the People's Alderman Patrick, and all of the Karen Greer and everybody that's here have put out, that we take this issue to the white community. And some of the things that we have to say, because we do have, by the way, a Solidarity Center on Gravois near Jefferson Street, which was not affected by the tornado, and that according to the statistics of the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank, African people in St. Louis have 16 cents for every dollar that white people have. That's in this city. That's not even counting all over the country. And that this tornado hit other towns with totally different conditions that are out in the county, which has incredible wealth. And they're saying online very publicly that white people who live in these surrounding cities here within the county of St. Louis County have a wealth of $800,000 per family. In some of the suburbs, which is a fraction of that of North St. Louis. And that this is the area, as has been said, that is defined by poverty, by absent resources, and the housing even before this tornado. And that part of our work from the Solidarity Committee is to make sure that the white community cannot just take it as the norm, right, that that's the way things are and that's the way things have to be. That we found that the disparities between the African community of North St. Louis and the white population of this region is found in every aspect of life, health outcomes, poverty, incarceration, police violence, infant and maternal mortality, and that there is an 18-year difference in the life expectancy between North St. Louis and the surrounding white communities. 18 years stolen from African people, and that African babies in North St. Louis experience infant mortality rates 3 times the rate just below the Delmar divide in the white community. The work of the Uhuru movement has been to address these conditions. Chairman Omali Yeshitella, to empower the African community to overcome the brutal disparities found in North St. Louis through their own power and their self-determination in the face of the fact that this city, as has been said, has never taken this on, that has had policies to, quote, let it rot, to consciously starve, like Team 4, starve all resources. That was written documents to starve the North Side, the African community, of resources. And that the tornado for North St. Louis that hit on May 16th created life and death situation very different from those in the South Side and in the white community. And from the African People's Solidarity Committee, we unite with the demands put out by Chairman Omali Yeshitella and the Uhuru movement and others here today. We unite that the city must act to funnel massive resources into the North Side community, the millions of dollars, as has been said, from the ARPA COVID money, the RAMS settlement money, all of it belongs to African people. We unite with the demand for the establishment of a community-based reparations land trust where the land becomes the community wealth of the Northside community, and we unite that the city must employ local Black contractors, as we have seen here today, and pay the residents who have actually been doing the work, hauling away all the debris that the chairman talked about. We unite with the struggle of reparations to the African community, and we invite all of our base, especially in the white community, to contribute to the relief fund going to blackpowerblueprint.org/Northside Disaster Fund. And we invite all of our base to attend this special event that the chairman has talked about this coming Sunday here at the Uhuru House, a meeting where much more will be put out. This will be this Sunday, June 1st at 3 p.m. Uhuru, reparations now, and unity through reparations. Uhuru.
Oh, Penny. Now we will hear from Jesse Neville, Uhuru Solidarity Movement Chair.
Uhuru, I'm very honored as well to be here. And I want to begin by saluting Chairman Omali Yeshitella and Deputy Chair Nenah Yeshitella and all of the speakers who have just presented before me. And I'm honored to be here representing the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the mass organization of the African People's Solidarity Committee under Chairwoman Penny Hess, who just spoke. The mass organization of white people working under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party for reparations to African people. As Chairwoman Penny Hess stated, on behalf of thousands of white people on the South Side, we state our total unity with the demands expressed here today. We stand with the right of African people in the North Side to remain in their homes and neighborhoods. We stand with the right of African people to have political and economic power over their own lives and resources. And we join with the demand for reparations from the city of St. Louis for generations of policies that made the impact of this tornado what it was. The devastation did not start on May 16th. And we unite with the demand for an investigation into Spencer's failure to activate tornado sirens that would have saved lives, and an immediate halt to her predatory exploitation of this disaster for gentrification and profit. As the chairman mentioned, on May 15th, the day before the tornado hit the North Side, Kara Spencer gleefully announced the appointment of Ben Johnson, a U.S. Air Force colonel, as the chief operations officer for the city of St. Louis. As a Jewish person, I could not help but notice the symbolism of the date she chose to make this announcement. May 15th, 1948, Nakba Day, marking the founding of the Zionist settler colonial state of Israel on stolen Palestinian land. Nakba is the Arabic word for catastrophe. It refers to the genocidal expulsion and murder of nearly 1 million Palestinians by Zionist settlers. And as the chairman pointed out, where was the new chief operations officer, Ben Johnson, most recently stationed? In Gaza, in occupied Palestine. What kind of operations experience did he acquire in Gaza? He is an expert in violently forcing people out of their homes. Yeah. By appointing Johnson on Nakba Day as chief of operations, Spencer sent a chilling message to the North Side. Forced population removal is the city's mode of operation. And it has been for decades. From the so-called racial covenants, the Team Forward Plan, the destruction of Mill Creek Valley, the land-grabbing LRA, the NGA, all of the policies that have been mentioned, which have contributed, as the chairman mentioned, in the past 10 years to tens of thousands of African people being forced out of St. Louis. Just as in occupied Palestine, every day here in North St. Louis is Nakba Day. It is colonialism there, it is colonialism here. And we as white people will not walk over the bodies of African people here when we protest the atrocities of the same colonialism abroad. Palestine is right here, right outside that door. So finally, we call on white people who have skills as contractors, plumbers, roofers, electricians, carpenters, volunteers to turn over those skills and resources to the African community to build power in North St. Louis, not as an act of charity, but as a stand of reparations. Join the Reparations Investment Company. You can contact info@uhurusolidarity.org and find out how you can contribute these skills, these resources towards the process of the African community rebuilding its own power. So finally, I want to say to Kara Spencer, this press conference is not a warning siren. Justice must be served for the African community of North St. Louis, and there can't be justice without reparations. The blood of those 7 people is on Kara Spencer's hands. Someone needs to go to jail. Reparations now.
Thank you for that, Jesse. Finally, we would like to hear from members of the community who have experienced the conditions in the north side of St. Louis, both before and after the tornado. If you'd like to come up and pose your concerns.
Sorry, I just wanted to say one more thing. As a resident and business owner, I'm getting ready to leave, I gotta go back to work. But I want to extend so much gratitude for all the help that we did receive in this community. Uhuru, Nenah, myself, so many people at the YMCA. We had people moving stuff off of trucks and cars, coming out their houses. So I was so grateful and humbled to see that in our community, because we live in a community where we've been neglected so long that we got this Stockholm syndrome that nobody's gonna come for us. They came for us and they came to help us. So I'm grateful to see all the hot meals, all the food vendors, and so many resources like Costco's, Walmart, coming to donate without the city saying, hey, we need you to do this. They did it because it was necessary. So I just want to say, I wanted to extend that thanks out to everybody that did help support me myself. We
appreciate you. Is there anybody else that would like to come up and pose your questions, concerns, your insight as to what is, okay, go ahead, step up to the mic, please.
Uhuru? Yeah, okay. My name is Lonnie Epson. I'm representing Burning Spears Press today. Okay. And I just want to say I've enjoyed all the comments, first off, that have been made, very encouraging. But it's the action that's going to really matter. So my question to you all is this. Well, first of all, not to you, but the question I had when I heard about the siren situation, and that is that we all know spring is tornado time, correct? So why would the city of St. Louis or any other municipality not check and make sure that the sirens and everything worked? So when the tornadoes or the storms come, that they would hit, and somebody should have been manning the button. So I agree with the chairman 100%. Somebody needs to be accountable. If it's going to jail, so be it. But lives were lost because you had a system that failed. Yeah. And the other side of the coin is kind of a two-string bow. The question I have is about this thing about 70% of the people not having insurance. You can't even drive a car without going into the DMV and showing you have proof of insurance. So why is not landlords, and a lot of people do rent, are responsible for making sure that these properties are properly insured, or at least the residents sent a reminder. When I get a thing in the mail, tell me my premium is due. If you don't have the money for the premium, that's one thing, but Why would we not have a reminder so that you don't let that slip past? And if the person doesn't have the money, can they get it subsidized by the city? Because guess what? When the property gets torn up, it's in the city or wherever it is. So that needs to be addressed. So maybe you all can give me some insight as to why that didn't happen. That a notification is not sent to you to say, tell your landlord he got to pay the insurance on the building. So if something happens, it can be covered.
Well, let me just address the siren situation, because on Friday, May 16th, I was conducting business for Uhuru Foods and Pies at our other building on Goodfellow and Natural Bridge. And this was about maybe 3 hours before the tornado. And their sirens were going off every 10, 15 minutes. So to say that something was wrong with the sirens or the button, somebody's lying. Somebody's lying big time, because they were working that day.
Yeah.
Somebody just didn't give a damn about pushing the button, as far as I'm concerned. So just an answer to that.
Thank you.
And I'll be briefly. I want to unite that what's going on in City Hall is just shifting blame. She claims she's a leader, but she won't take a lead for the mess that's going on in our communities. We know that it was working. It was working the day before. A few days after, it was working. But unfortunately, the day of, when we needed it to work, it wasn't working. Now, which one is it? The person wasn't there or it wasn't working. Get your lives together, because the judge might want to hear it. And I leave it at this. Me and my son, we was outside. He was outside playing with the kids, and I was outside working on my vehicle. And my son, he loved the weather. And we was outside when the rain, the wind came. I said, this is unusual. He said, Dad, I want to stay out in the rain. So I let him stay out in the rain for a minute or two. Something just told me, come on in. And as soon as I told him to come on in, these baseball, not golf ball, baseballs, hail start coming down. And just imagine that if I would have let him stay it out there, the damage that would have done, because it damaged my home, but it's not about me, it's about the community. But make a long story short, I'm in unison that someone has to pay Uhuru, and it's quite expensive in this local government. Uhuru.
Yeah. I just think it's problematic that we have become accustomed as Africans for this kind of thing happening to us without a meaningful response from us. For one thing, it's not an individual problem, it's a social contradiction that we're confronted with. So political contradiction that impacts the entire African community. In this country, I mean, people like to talk about how America is a nation of immigrants, which is BS. First of all, America is not a nation, it's a prison of nations. Second, we're not immigrants. We didn't come here as immigrants, we came here as captives. And that's the objective reality. And we came here to be exploited. That's why we were brought here. No, we didn't come here looking for a better way of life. We lost a better way of life as a consequence of being snatched up and brought to this very hostile environment. So we live as a colonized population. At the point we understand what colonialism is, none of this should surprise us. The state always works against us. There's nothing that it does for us. Even when it says it's coming to help, there's usually a catch to it that results in expropriation of our value. It's a whole industry, a welfare industry that exists right now in this country. Billions of dollars are moved in the name of helping Black people. But to get the money, you can't have a man in the house for some of these conditions, and it breaks up families. And your social worker becomes like a police agent. Come into your house to make sure there's no evidence of a man being in the house, etc. There's this kind of stuff happening. Our children get kidnapped by so-called CPS. Yeah. The same Black women who raised white babies and took care of white children for ages until they found some more niggas like like Vietnamese and Mexicans and stuff like that, the same black women who took care of white children forever now have been considered incompetent to take care of our own children. So you got this agency, CPS, that comes and say, you're not able to take care of your children, take your children. Africans are being kidnapped by the thousands. Every day we have this discussion, a black child, at least a black child is being kidnapped by the government. And they're supposed to be helping us, and they do it in a fashion that the community is ashamed. The mother whose child was snatched was ashamed because the government has declared that we are unworthy parents. Well, we took care of them forever. You know, so we weren't unworthy as long as we were taking care of them. We become unworthy when we become independent, and then there's billions of dollars that's involved. The so-called food stamps and this stuff they give us. You see what we're doing out here now? They give this to agricultural corporations. They give welfare to major corporations that they're supposed to be helping us. They're giving that money to corporations. So the corporations, and they pretend to be doing it for us, they're doing it for the corporations. This is the kind of stuff we live with. We have to determine that we are more valuable than that. We have to determine ourselves. You can't do this to us today and then say, oops. 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 You can't do that. So if they don't ever have to pay a consequence, they will continue to do it forever. Forever. So we have to have the ability to have them pay a consequence. And part of that consequence is part of what Patrick was talking about. Except I talk about it differently. Because we do have to be self-reliant. But individual self-reliance, as good as it may be, as good as it may make us feel, doesn't deal with the social contradiction. Because everybody like us got the same damn problem. So we have to have a process of pulling together everybody like us with this problem, and we have to identify the source of the problem so we don't just keep having the problem as a group even. There's something about this relationship. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I just think it's really important. Uhuru.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. There's some, okay. You'd like to step up to the mic, yes?
My name's Emil. This is my second time down here in this building. I was here this past Sunday for the first time. I've told them, Westbrook, I've been stalking this building for a long time. I liked it because it was so professional looking.
Right.
So that just was attractive to it. So I've been checking y'all out without seeing any people for over a year, well over a year. I am a native St. Louis person. I was born here, raised here. The past 5 years, I've lived out in the county in the south part of the city. So I'm in St. Louis so much. I used to bring my trash down. It took me a while to get used to. And even now, I like my land. I like my house, but St. Louis is home. I go to the Y way down here. They got a Y out there where I live at, a couple of them, So this will always be home. I'm just geographically relocated. But the other thing I want to just touch on a little bit is that you talked about children. I'm a nurse. I've been one for 44 years, a registered nurse. And I had the opportunity to work in the KIP school system as a school nurse. I also was an elected member to the school board for a 4-year stint, St. Louis Public. And they're destroying our children on every level that you can think of. They're selling them hot Cheetos. We know what that does for ADHD and all this other stuff. I had 400 students and one nurse, okay? And I had to be responsible for the staff. Of course, anybody who got, harmed or sick or whatever on the property, include the parking lot. But I guess what I'm saying is that I've been looking forward to use my skills. I'm not retired, even though I haven't worked since September, and I've totally enjoyed it. But I need money, so I'm gonna go back. I got some goals I need to achieve before I finally sit down. But I keep trying to find places to be useful. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I got 44 years, and I didn't just do children, I did adults, I did IC, you name it. All the people ask me, where have you worked? I said, no better question, ask me, where have you worked? You know, so, but anyway, I'm just feeling really blessed and very positive being here with you all. And I belong to an organization for Black Struggle, which I love dearly. Been with them for close to 30 years. And, but, you know, the energy and the youth and the activity, some of what we used to do is not there as much because we're aging out, you know, so anyway, I just want to say thank you.
Uhuru, Sister Amina, I just wanted to let you know there is a place here for your skills. Yeah, okay, well, I don't have to sit down then. Okay.
So you done found home.
Yeah.
Thank you. We really just want to salute also the work of the Black Power Blueprint that's organized scores of volunteers and donations to work on the recovery of our community. You know, if you've seen them out here over the past week and a half or so. And we invite you to contribute to this effort at blackpowerblueprint.org/Northside Disaster Fund. So that's spelled all the way out, blackpowerblueprint.org/Northside Disaster Fund, where your donations are tax deductible. The Uhuru House where we are now is a drop-off place for donations, including water, ice, chainsaws, trash bags, gloves, batteries, flashlights, hammers, nails, screws, drills, granola bars, first aid, anything you can think of that you would need to, you know, just get through activities of daily life, you know, care packs for the people, you know, like anything, literally. And on the south side, where the majority of the settlers live, the majority of the white people live. You can drop off donations at the Uhuru Solidarity Center at 2654 Gravois Avenue. Again, that is 2654 Gravois Avenue. And we will now open it up. Like, if there are any questions about that, you can step up and ask those questions. Anybody have any questions about it? No, okay. Will that conclude? Okay. Then I will conclude the press conference. And we thank you for coming out and being a part.
Another thing I would say, this is all in conclusion, because I think it's really important. The media boycotted this press conference. That's important because they want a particular narrative to exist, and they do not want a narrative of Black people resisting and making demands on the system for our conditions. So I think it's really important that we have to do what we can to get the word out. We really have to get people here for Sunday. It's at 3 o'clock. It's going to really be important so that we can, collectivize this understanding. The community needs a collective understanding. I've heard different individual Black people saying, okay, this is what they're going to do. They're going to take our land, or they're trying to do this and that too. We've seen somebody was talking about an African woman who they saw refusing to leave, put a tent in front of her house, refusing to leave, etc., because they know. So we got to move beyond people trying to deal with this as individuals, only as individuals. We got to try to collectivize this thing and collectivize the understanding and win the people toward mission. And the thing that's really important for us to understand that there ain't no such thing for us as charity. They use our money. Yes. Your use our money. You can't get a business loan, right? But every time you go to church and put your money in the church every Monday, your preacher takes that money to the bank. The bank uses that money to make money. But you can't get a loan. You can't get a business loan with it. Every time you go to the mall or to the shop and spend that money, put that money there, that money goes to the bank. The bank takes that money to make money, but you can't get that money to even as a loan for yourself. And then these taxes that we're talking about, how they give McKees and all these other so-called developers these tax breaks, that's your money. that's being used and you can't access it. So we ain't asking nobody to give us nothing for nothing. They've had free labor or near free labor from black people for 600 years. And that's not asking for anything. And what we're doing is asking those folk on the South Side, asking those folks in other places, as we do our work to grow and develop our community, to act in solidarity with us, not as charity, but in unity with our intent to be a self-governing, self-reliant people and get those resources where they need to be. Because there are people who live off, they have inherited our labor. They've inherited our labor. So we've done the work, we've done everything, etc., but we don't inherit it. It's in somebody else's community. And so we're just saying that they'll have to work in solidarity with us. And the fact is that reparations is a form of self-criticism by the white population. And that's good for you. Anybody who goes to church understands that, you know. It's good for the soul. Isn't that right? It's good for this soul too. Right? So self-criticism is good. And that's all we're saying. You know, we're not holding up anybody, we're not looking to oppress anybody. You know, so freedom for black people is not for the purpose of oppression. It's ending oppression. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you. And I want to acknowledge the incredible work that's done by my sister Ona Zene Yeshitella in the back. And I'd say this without reservation. Sister Emil was talking about when she came and saw the professionalism of this building. That's Ona Zene Yeshitella. And when you walk in here and see this out, that's Ona Zene Yeshitella. When you go up and down West Florence and then see the development, that's Ona Zene Yeshitella. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And of course, the people's own. And before I even knew anything about a so-called Todd plan, the first time I saw this man, the first time I saw Jesse Todd, he was leaning over the rails at a board meeting, fighting with them for neglecting this community, for involving in a secret plan. He had initiated a secret plan to double the size of the war here, and Jesse was fighting them. And I said, "Who is that man?" So I just want to, and Comrade Patrick, who's been with us forever, you know. So, and Comrade President, our dear brother, President Young Israel, as he likes to call himself, but Jason Westbrook, you know, you heard what he had to say. I love what he had to say because he went street by street, neighborhood by neighborhood with us. So all of those people who want to claim that this is some crazy outside radicals who are talking about this, Jesse ain't no outside radical. He's radical as hell. Yeah, even though they try to keep him outside. You know. Well, I just want to thank you so much, brothers and sisters, for being here, and we appreciate it very much. And we have to do everything we can to get this out. Get this out. We have to spread the word and get people to be here this coming Sunday. Uhuru, 3 o'clock, West Florence, 3 o'clock, 4101 West Florence, 3 o'clock. Sister Carol will be sitting right up there to greet you. Uhuru.